Okay, welcome everyone to another Neo Chats, and we are privileged to be joined by Bertrand Laborde tonight. Welcome, Bertrand.
Thank you very much, Mark. Thanks for the invite.
Thank you so much for being here. And for the folks that might not know you, would you just give a wee intro about who you are and what you're doing?
Uh, sure thing. Where do I start? Just what I'm the present.
Yeah, the present. Yeah, we'll definitely dig into the other bits.
So I think a large part of your audience is familiar with the higher education sector. Is that right?
Yes, right. Yeah.
So I've been working over 11 years in the higher education field on myself. A bit of a fruit of higher education, especially international higher education, where when I was studying in France at a university, instead of doing my last year of master, I came to do a double degree at the Eindhoven University of Technology here in the Netherlands. And that was 12 years ago. And I'm here since then. And while I was then studying in Eindhoven, I started to work for a study choice platform called Study Portals. I worked there 11 years. I left a year ago, right before the pandemic hit. Perfect timing. It's like couldn't have chosen a better time in 10 years. And then, but I'm still, although I've left the industry in terms of my work, I'm still involved in higher education as elected member of the European Association for International Education, the EAI. And I'm part of the marketing and recruitment steering group, actually chairing it since last September. So that keeps me in the higher education industry. It's a voluntary job, but very happy I can keep that foot in there. But currently I'm working on for a software as a solution company for automating visual content production. So not at all related to higher education. That's more to generate images of products without taking a picture of the product. So you create it in 3D. And then integrate all sorts of backgrounds. So that's pretty interesting. That's where I've landed after I made my move a year ago.
Yeah, quite a big move. I mean, that's about 11 years at Study Portals, and then but it's interesting that you still want to keep a foothold, shall we say, in higher education. So by chairing the marketing and recruitment steering group, why was that? Was it just kind of I mean, what is the interest still in education? Do you feel like you want to maintain that connection just because there's a sense of purpose there, or is it sort of because of the network? Or
it's a good point that you make about network. So I got elected to chair the marketing and recruitment group. That was in March last year, I think. So I kind of applied before that, February, got elected in March, maybe in May, and then I didn't know at the time that I was going to go out of the industry. So I was like, of course, I accept the nomination, happy to be chair starting in September. And I also didn't want to put that on hold, because it's been 10 years in the industry to arrive in such a position. And I was not, I didn't make any plan yet on where am I going to go in the future. So I didn't want to burn that bridge. But so with my employers afterwards, I've made sure they would agree for me to still be involved in the EAI. So that was kind of part of my conditions in finding a job. But we have a really great group. So we're all very close. We know each other well. And I wouldn't want to leave the group, leave the association. I think there is a lot we can do for the community there. So it's more like I feel like I'm not going to leave, although I'm not in the industry at the moment.
Yeah. Okay. So you're still. It's funny because looking at the the LinkedIn profile and looking at your professional background. I mean, a huge wealth of experience in lots of different areas, but yet, and this is what I find really interesting, everybody, I love all the kind of colors of the rainbow on LinkedIn and the ways that people describe themselves.
Yeah.
Sometimes actually I find them quite funny, sometimes quite bold, kind of tongue in cheek. Sometimes it's generic. Sometimes it's too long winded. Sometimes it's quite short. And I come across yours and it's one line. Now, just read this. So this is how you describe yourself. I care for what I do to contribute to making people happier and the world a better place. So
That's my summary.
Yeah.
I didn't write it at the third person. Some people say you should write at the third person on LinkedIn. I was like, I don't see myself doing that.
No, I tried that once and got rid of it after a day.
He cares for what he do, what he does to make the world a better place. Yeah.
Yeah. So how did you arrive at that summary? I mean, you took all of that background and decided, well, that's not what I want to say to represent me. Why did you arrive at that one line?
Honestly, that's when they created kind of the summary section. And I was like, oh man, I have to write a summary now. So I looked not so much at the what I'm doing, but the why I'm doing things. And just I tried. That's a bit how I see a career and a professional path. It's part of your life. It shouldn't be the main thing in there, but it shouldn't hold you back in your personal development, in your personal mission. And so I like to be critical on looking at how my job fits into my personal development, and what gets me going as a person is helping, is being there for others, is being supportive, compassionate, and that's where I always get a lot of energy from. I get a lot of sense of purpose from that, and I want to be able to express those. I think these are qualities, to express those qualities in the work environment as well, and that's why I came to that. I care that it makes the other people happy, that it makes the world a better place, and it's not super easy to find, right? Because you always think like, hey, that could be better. There could be a better sense of purpose. I could work for an NGO. I've looked for it. Didn't really find the perfect fit at the moment, but nothing is permanent. So let's see where that leads. But I like to that you mentioned that. It also reminds me, hey, dude, that's what you say you would do. So just keep on doing that.
Well, it's interesting. I wonder how, when you're going to work somewhere or considering a career move, or looking at a company from the outside, for example, it's difficult if you're talking about aligning what you called your personal mission, and making sure that the professional life supports that and also offers opportunities for personal development in the way that you want to go. It's really difficult, don't you think, to kind of look from the outside at an opportunity, a role, a job, a company, a direction, and really know if that's going to offer that. So how do you reconcile that? Because normally often you would find that people who really want to control, if you want to use that word, that environment, they tend to go their own direction, right? They become entrepreneurs and they start their company because they can sculpt that environment. So how do you do it? What's the way you do when you're making a decision to make sure it's, obviously there's no guarantees, but it's the best choice you can make to make sure that it fits with your personal mission?
It's I kind of learned by failing a little bit there, because I think I've been extremely lucky when I came across Study Portals. I was still a student. I stayed at 10 years. Really very rewarding job in terms of just contribution to the world, in terms of values. And then I left and I was like, okay, I'm going to take a few months to look at who I am outside of Study Portals. I thought, and I still think, that when you spend 10 years in a place, it's a relationship. You spend 10 years there, you have to find yourself outside of that place again, outside of that influence. So I thought, like, I'm going to take some time off And then COVID happened. So the time off, I had it. There was no alternative. I had time to find out who I was without my previous job. And then I found that one opportunity in Eindhoven, a startup in e-commerce technology. I was like, you know what, that sounds interesting. And the recruitment process went very fast. It was very, very direct, very honest. I was like, I like that vibe. It's not like a political thing. Let's give it a go. It's good to find a job now during the COVID times. It felt right. And at the end of the first day, it didn't feel right anymore. So I knew it, and then I stayed there for 6 months. But I knew during those 6 months that I was just not aligned in terms of value, and it was tough to say, okay, I'm gonna move on, because it felt like giving up in a way, or admitting that you've made a mistake. And so that was I gave myself a hard time there. And then I was like, man, your next experience, you're just going to be as disappointed. And then I got the job here in Amsterdam, a different company, and it's a total different feeling that I'm having. And now I feel like, wow, it's a great vibe. It's I have the freedom to explore. I'm given the time to learn. Being trusted, really surrounded by people that have great skills, really very professional company, really go the extra mile for the success of the company. I was like, yeah, that feels good, and there's been a relief. And I'm now three months into that new job. It feels great, but yeah, I was afraid it would not feel that way.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will resonate with that. There's a lot of people who, I mean, what you're talking about almost feels like it's like an energetic level. I mean, you talk about the vibe, the feeling you get.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just as simple as that, isn't it? It's not any more complicated than that. It's that instinctive feeling of whether or not you're aligned with it. And it's almost like, I don't know, something I've noticed that one of my sort of pet hates in life, if you want to put it that way, is when you miss a turning on the motorway, and there's like 15 miles until the next bit that you can get off, and those 15 miles in the wrong direction feel like the longest possible miles. And it's almost like that when you're working in an organization with which you don't feel aligned. I mean, there's something at an instinctive level that just
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It feels like there's nothing to enjoy in those 15 miles. It's like nothing. Crappy landscape. Never wanted to see it. It's like, oh, yeah. Why is this on speed limits? I just want to go faster. Nothing is right. And then, well, you can take those 15 miles feeling shit about it, or, just not caring and just moving on. In the end, you still have to drive those 15 miles.
Yeah.
If you look at it like in an object, in theoretical way, it's like, okay, do I want to spend those 15 miles feeling crap, or spend those 15 miles, feeling happy and being in the present? Well, it's an easy choice, but it's not that easy to put in perspective. No, that's why you need to be surrounded by.
You can't get the 15 miles back. But one thing that you mentioned a couple of times, that when we're talking about alignment, you've mentioned values a couple of times. What does that mean to you in terms of, we hear a lot of talk about organizational values, and again, it's a case of, well, let's see, everybody's got value statements on their website, and it's like, well, yeah. let's see if that's really the case. But in terms of personal values, are there any that really stand out for you? I mean, you mentioned freedom to create, freedom to explore and create, and time to learn. Yeah. Is there, and being trusted, I think you mentioned as well. Are there other values that are really strong for you?
I think generosity is one, authenticity, open mind. So we maybe just like some very quick words I'll be able to mention, just because they feel right. And I like that when companies they make their values clear, that they really state them on their website, they make their mission. I think it's a very nice first feel for the company that you join. My previous company, so the in-between companies before, there was no values clearly stated. And maybe if there would have been values, I could have realized, okay, that's not so much for me. And I was looking for other jobs. I saw some that were really kind of process-oriented types of value, like, okay, we don't waste time, we're very direct and to the point. I'm like, okay, well, that can be good, but I'm not sure that should be your value. I'd rather hear like we care for everybody to feel listened and to be able to contribute.
Yeah.
As long as it doesn't hold back on progress, something like that. I think I would feel more at home on that. But to discover my own values, I went through some processes in that just to try to find them. I think it's a friend of mine who told me that he had taken that exercise of finding your core values, what your mission is in life, and I was like, that's pretty interesting. So I have a coach, and we meet like a bi-weekly kind of life coach, and we did that exercise to identify my values, and it was an interesting process to get there. So I experimented a few things like chakra reading. Found it super interesting. It's really impressive how that works. It just connects with you. It connects with you at the gut level, and when you make that connection, it really helps then to keep you on the right path. But you have to be able to listen to it, to listen to your body. And I think sometimes we are so much in our head there of thinking, oh, okay, I'm supposed to do the right thing, or I shouldn't. I have to make sure I don't disappoint anybody, and I should not give up, and I have to keep going. What your body tells you, you cannot keep on doing that. You cannot keep on doing that. And then if there is that stretch, then you end up in a very sad situation. And during my career at Study Portals, I reached at some point that point where my body was clearing me, telling me you have to step down from that managerial position you were in. And luckily for me, that was at the time where I had done quite a lot of mindfulness and meditation. I've been to some Zen retreats to connect myself with my body, with my instinct, my guts. So when the body told me you cannot continue with what you're doing, at the time I was the chief commercial officer, so global director of Study Portals, and that was over the weekend that my body gave me that sign. And on Monday, I met with my CEO and my COO, and I said, "Hey guys, I cannot continue doing that, so I want to step down from that position, because that's the right thing to do." They've been very supportive. For me, that was the easiest decision I kind of ever made, because it was just my body making that decision. And a lot of people around me were saying like, wow, it's impressive you can make the decision to step down, because it's not something that society kind of teaches us. You have to aim higher.
Yes.